Hare Krishna everyone. I'm Kavya Budhiraja. Welcome back to Being Krishna Conscious. So the question that we are going to take today is how to handle or how to tolerate any situation in life. Well, we all must agree that we go through different phases in our life, including those of happiness, distress, anxiety, all those phases when we are at our lowest or maybe at our peak. So, what is that effective way that is coming right from the source, Sri Krishna, so as to effectively deal with all such situations? So, this video is going to be a small attempt that what does Bhagavad Gita say on this? So, how to tolerate any situation? Well, Sri Krishna beautifully mentions in chapter number 2, verse number 14 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkha agama paino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. He tells Arjuna, Hey Kuntiputra Arjun, please know that happiness and distress, they are just like changing weathers. Just as we know that after summer comes winter, and likewise after winter, summer is bound to come. So in the similar fashion, happiness is bound to be followed by distress, and distress is bound to be followed by happiness. And every person, every intelligent man should learn how to tolerate both distress and happiness. Now, I personally feel that a very interesting phenomena Krishna is talking about. He is not only asking Arjun, or through Arjun, he is not only asking all of us to tolerate only the miseries, but he is also asking us to tolerate the happiness. Let's try to break this in various fragments. Firstly, let's try what is the meaning of tolerating any miserable situation. That is part A, and in the latter part, we'll be discussing that why is it important to tolerate even happiness, because we can all agree that happiness is something that all of us are seeking. So let's start with discussing tolerating miseries in our life. Well, I believe it's easier said than done. It's a different thing that when we are actually into that phase and we are going through any painful situation in life, it's very difficult to come out of that anxiety. Even for some of the devotees, it can become really hard at some times. Well, for tolerating any miserable situation, we have to understand that the problem is not really outside. The problem is within. The situation is not the problem. People are not a problem. Our house is not a problem. Our qualification is not a problem. The problem is our uncontrolled mind. Because the states of happiness and distress are essentially the reflections of our mind. What my mind is telling me, if my mind is telling me that certain thing is in my favor, I would rather consider it as a happy situation, and vice versa too. So the problem lies in uncontrolled mind, and to control the mind or to control the man, we have been given mantra, that thing which can control the mind. That is why in the age of Kali Yuga, the mantra, which is also known as Tarak Brahma mantra, has been beautifully given by our acharyas, starting from Sri Krishna himself in his magnanimous form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This Tarak Brahma mantra has been specifically recommended for this age of Kali Yuga, which is the age of quarrel, dualities and hypocrisy. So now let us come to a crucial question. Krishna in this verse also mentions that, hey Arjun, learn how to tolerate even happy situations? Well, happiness is something that all of us are running after since eternity, I would say. Then why should we tolerate happiness? What is the need of that? Because happiness is something that we all dearly want. Then why should we tolerate it? What is the meaning of tolerating happiness? Well, as Krishna has already mentioned, that happiness and distress are just like changing weathers. Just as we have heat and cold, honor and dishonor, similarly, happiness is always followed by distress. And I read a beautiful analogy. It said, imagine, falling from a building. The more height you will achieve, or the more floors that you climb of that building, and then if one falls off the roof, the intensity of suffering would be tremendous. So, putting that particular analogy here, the more we jump up and down, or the more elevated we are during our happy times, it is highly likely that the intensity of suffering would be equal. We must have seen a lot of big CEOs of multinational companies who are extremely ecstatic. All the stakeholders are very happy whenever everything is going fine. If the share prices are all right and they are increasing day by day, so everyone is celebrating and the atmosphere is quite ecstatic. But the moment the prices of shares decline, we know that the situation in the current era is so disturbing that people can even go to an extent of harming their own self. Why? Because the tolerance is really less. So we have to understand that the rules of this material nature is such, as Krishna is mentioning in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you're happy, please know that distress will also come. And he openly says that this world is nothing but dukhalayam ashashvatam. Dukhalayam, dukh plus alay, it means the house of misery. There's one famous acharya who says that you must expect kicks and blows every single day, because that is what is meant to be given to us, especially in this material world. So the point that Krishna is trying to make is very, very important for all of us. And I personally feel that it is actually a disclaimer that, okay, this is how the material world would be, that happiness, the sukh and dukh are bound to be there one after another, and you must learn how to tolerate them. Do not be boastful. Do not be so engrossed in showing off what you possess. We see so many people boasting that, my children are studying in the US, or we are going to Europe tour next week, or I've got such and such amount of money in my bank account. So, in a way, what we are trying to do is that we look upon others as if to tell them that I possess all of these things and you don't. So this is another way of making ourselves attached, even more attached to these material bodies, which must not be there. See, the ultimate goal of spirituality is detachment. The goal is to understand that you are not the body, you're the spirit soul. And all the achievements that we are running after, or all the things, the possessions that we dearly want in our life, are actually making us more attached to this body. Although it's very good to advance even in your professional life, even in your material life, but it's equally important to understand that after happiness, distress is bound to come. So the key is to tolerate both happiness and distress. Now coming on to the final question of this video. How to tolerate happiness and distress? What are the practical ways that any person can take in his life in order to at least know that how can he tolerate these situations? Well, the answer is spirituality. And I'll also tell you what is the right time to do that. Whenever life gives you any happy situation, that is the time wherein we are actually in our senses, we have a pleasurable environment around us, and that is the correct time to connect with our shastras, with sadhu sangha, to understand that we must not feel so elevated because of this temporary happiness that has been given to us by our own pious karmas, that it will affect our personality in distress. So the time when we are in happy state, I believe, is a good time to connect back with our roots. And most importantly, faith is indispensable in this. We must have full and complete faith that whatever Krishna is giving me, whatever situation, just like a teacher, gives in situations in the life of his students in form of surprise tests, in form of assignments and other homeworks. Similarly, we must understand that Krishna is our teacher who's trying to make us strong by giving us these unprecedented situations in our life. But our faith that Krishna will never want my bad is what will make us Shakti to tolerate that situation. So please note that we must have full faith on the arrangements of Lord Sri Krishna, because he himself says that he's our well-wishing best friend, and well-wisher can never want anything bad or anything ill for the other person. Lastly, let me conclude this video by stating that in one of the commentaries to Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada mentioned a very interesting thing. He said that in spirituality, the words happiness and distress have a completely opposite meaning. Yes, he says that whenever life gives you any distress, one must be happy, because he must think that all my bad karmas are getting depleted. And when life gives you favorable situation, or when it gives you happiness, then one must be concerned. Why? Because the pious credits or the good karmas that one has done are getting depleted. So I was quite fascinated reading these completely different meanings of these terms, happiness and distress. So ultimately, it all rests in what we want to do in our life. Krishna has shown us the path. Now it ultimately depends upon us whether we would want to walk that path or not. As he even mentions in the end of Bhagavad Gita, where he says, "Hey Arjun, yatha ichchasi tatha kuru." Oh Arjun, I've told you everything you needed to know. Now, yatha ichchasi, jaisi ichha ho vaisa karo. Whatever you feel right, please do. So this is what Krishna is telling all of us too. Now it completely rests in our side of the court what we want to do with these situations whenever they are thrown, just like those kicks and blows of the martial arts teacher that he gives to make us stronger. So let us all pray that may we never be boastful of our achievements, and may we try to be humble instrument in the hands of the Lord so as to please him and also achieve the highest state of human perfection. Hare Krishna, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam, Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.